So here's an example of it. If you wanted to know whether your array's raw sequence is sorted, then you could spend ages figuring out how to check that exactly, or you could use def unconsistent with an incredibly inefficient and stupid way of doing it. And as you can see here, if you when you define the function test, asking whether these things are sorted, it does the sorting right then when you define the function. So that when you call it at runtime, it never does this ridiculous stable sort. So it doesn't matter how stupid your algorithm was, because you only do it at compile time. So this means that you can be a bit lazier about how you implement stuff without worrying about speed. And if you are good at implementing stuff, and you're very worried about speed, then it will still pre-compute it. So I use this very heavily in the UTF-8 encode and decode, which I wrote all by myself because none was fast enough, and it was actually a huge bottleneck.
Yeah, sorry. Well, if you give the literal, it's kind of trivial program. You can handle it by compiler macro. So the difficult thing is that the given argument is the compiler may figure out it's a constant, but it's not really visible case. You said that you use eval to see if it's the constant, then you can find it. But what if that the argument is some kind of local variable, which is actually constant, but only compiler can know? How do you handle it?
Yeah, this is actually a very good point, and it's one of the sources of irritation for me, because there's no way of doing that.
Yeah, because the macro can only see the internal scope, but it's not the surrounding environment.
Yeah, so there's a function called constant p, which will take a form in an environment. And so that could be upgraded by the compiler to be more explicit about saying this variable is a constant now and will remain a constant. But no compiler does that, as far as I know. I mean, the other annoying point about it is we cannot use compiler macros. No. Because the output of compiler macros is not compiler macro expanded. So that means if you have one def unconsistent and it expands to something with another def unconsistent inside it, you've just lost. And it's extremely, extremely annoying. I mean, I know someone else who did something similar, and they actually walk the output of their compiler macros, and compiler macro expand the output by themselves, because you can call compiler macro function if you like. But that requires, actually, to do it properly, requires a full code walker. So, yeah, it's extremely irritating that we have this problem, because compiler macro functions would be ideal for this, but we can't actually use them. So I think this is an oversight of the guys who specified common Lisp. They should have said the output of compiler macros must be compiler macro expanded. It's not difficult to require that, and it would make a big difference to my horrible macro.
What about Allegro?
Well, on Allegro, you can't use inline functions. You can't. User-defined functions can't be inline. So anyway, Allegro, in my opinion, is a performance joke. Off the record. I only had bad experiences with it. Yeah, so if you disassemble the output of the function, it doesn't have any calls to stable sort. It just has a return t. So this function here, asking if this list is sorted, is as good as it will ever get. Yeah, so the fact that most Lisp implementations use massively wide characters is was terrible for the first couple of editions of TPD before I wrote my own byte vector stuff. One part of that was making this sort of list of byte vectors, so concatenating strings doesn't cost any time or memory or or very little memory, and copying isn't such a big problem. This made it about twice as fast. Here's the CLConf stuff, this def protocol function. In theory, this would be really, really, really great, because you wouldn't have to worry about call CC at all. You could just write your program as if it was completely imperative, and everything would work out perfectly. Unfortunately not, because CLConf just either crashes itself or blows up the compiler, and the iMessy one is much worse. I'll show you guys the def protocol thing. So maybe, okay, clearly I should use shorter lines. So here's the def protocol for HTTP. And the first bit, as you can see, is getting the HTTP header line out of the first line. And it uses the IO receive line helper function, which returns the line. And then it resets the timeout, and then it goes through the headers. The timeout is only reset once. So if you send one header and then wait, you're not going to get more time. So it's pretty good for the DOS thing. Okay. So the def protocol breaks up into two versions. One is the simple I/O, which uses just streams, so you can test it by yourself. And this one has no call CC in it, and you can just run that from the REPL and type in the protocol by yourself to check it works. And then the second one it generates is the with call CC one, and this is the horrible code. I'm going to expand it now, so just don't cry too much when you see it. And yeah, even expanding it takes ages. It expands to all these like shenanigans: lambda blah blah blah, fun call lambda blah blah blah, lambda fun call blah blah blah, fun call lambda blah blah blah. And all of these can be collapsed down more or less. There are only one or two places where the continuation really needs to be saved. Save it there instead of blowing up every step. And poor SBCL has a crasher bug when you get to a too complicated one of these. So somewhere there's a horrible thing. Oh, okay. Where is it? Yeah, it's huge. Okay, I can't find the horrible thing, but you can see it's just massive, really massive waste of time, and it consumes a lot because it creates fun callable instances, which are extremely inefficient, very annoying, and that's the next step to fix. The HTML output I'm very pleased about because it spell checks the attributes. Most HTML output doesn't do that. So if you do CL-foo and you misspell an attribute, you won't find out. You only find out when the page looks a bit strange. This one tells you when you spelled it wrong. It makes sure that you can't put a TD element for a table cell inside a paragraph, for example. It will give you an error at compile time. And it will all get pre-compiled, pre-computed, and whacked into a symbol very efficiently. Then I wrote my own quoting thingamajig. Yeah, CSS output. Same thing, spell check CSS. You can do loads of stuff with it.